Joining me now from Mississauga, Ontario, is infectious disease specialist Dr. Sumon Chakrabarti. And Dr. Chakrabarti, we were going to have you on to talk about an op-ed you wrote in the Globe, but I want to ask you your reaction to the AstraZeneca news. How significant is this?
This is awesome news, and I like how you put it. This is another tool in our arsenal for our struggle against COVID. But this is great news to hear. You know, the fact that it took a bit of time, it looks like Health Canada really did vet this information very quickly, very effectively, sorry, and it's going to be safe and effective for Canadians. It's really looking good for us over the next several weeks.
But there are differences between it and Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. Can you elaborate on that for us at all?
Yeah, it's difficult, but we do see when there might be some issues with the South African variant. The efficacy seems lower, but it's difficult to compare the two because the populations that were used in the trials are very different. One thing that we do know, even with AstraZeneca, even with the variants, it is still extremely effective at reducing hospitalizations and almost completely eliminating death. And these are the two things that are the most important metrics to look at and are our ticket out of the pandemic.
Should people, if they get the option to choose, should they, or should you just take the first vaccine that becomes available to you when you meet the criteria?
I would say that the second, whatever vaccine you get, I would get it. The important thing is getting vaccines into people's arms. The more people we get to do it, the sooner we can come out of the pandemic. On an individual level, these different values that you see in the trials aren't going to make up much of a difference. The point is that if you get a vaccine, you will most likely not have severe disease from COVID. And that, again, is the most important metric.
Okay. And on that note, though, in your op-ed editorial that you wrote with several of your colleagues, you say when it comes to vaccinations, we're missing the elephant in the room. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, we spend a lot of time looking at, viral videos of the HomeSense lineup, for example, and looking at risks that are small but are very visible. But we really miss the people that are at the highest risk, and those are where our interventions really would matter. Essential workers, the household transmission chain from those same essential workers. And now we're seeing a lot of outbreaks happening in shelter populations around the country, including right here in the GTA and Thunder Bay. And I think that if we put our efforts here, really have targeted interventions, we could take a huge bite out of these outbreaks that are happening rather than focusing on things that are much smaller risk and aren't going to have as much yield.
But does that mean you don't think they should be vaccinating the elderly who are in safer regions and should be targeting on the essential workers, even if they're younger, but they're in more hot spots?
No, I think just adding that as a criteria. So, of course, age is one of the biggest risk factors for severe disease. So that group still should be prioritized. But I mean to also put individuals that are in the hot spots in terms of transmission as a priority as well, as these areas that are really burning and can really perpetuate transmission, including, for example, long-term care, which we've already dealt with, shelters, which is a big one right now, and of course, these non-healthcare essential workplaces.
Okay. I wish we had more time, but I have to leave it at that. Always appreciate yours, Dr. Chakrabarti. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Take care.